Hello, and welcome to Cybersecurity Today. I'm Jim Wiggins, your host. If you're joining us for the first time, let me offer you a quick overview of our show. This show is a 30-minute program that combines the formats of both a talk show and a newscast to deliver thought-provoking discussions on some of the most pressing themes and current events in the cybersecurity space. Whether you're new to cybersecurity or a seasoned professional like myself, Cybersecurity Today is the perfect place to learn how to protect and defend information systems. Our experts will share their knowledge and offer thought leadership on the direction of the cybersecurity industry. We strive to provide valuable information to all interested parties. So whether you're a business owner, an IT professional, or just someone who's curious about the topic, you can tune in to Cybersecurity Today for exciting and insightful coverage of computer security. Now, our show is divided into two unique segments. The first segment we refer to as Cyber Bites. In this first segment, we cover a lot of the latest and current events that are happening today in the cybersecurity industry. With the Cyber Bite segment, we try to keep you up to date on the most pressing news stories and trends in cybersecurity and delve into the key events from the industry's perspective. From data breaches to emerging cyber threats, the Cyber Bite segment is your go-to source for breaking news in the world of cybersecurity. Then, in our second segment, we have Mr. Pierre Colombel coming on to the show to discuss what he's seen in the cybersecurity and education space as the Chief Executive Officer of the DoD Training Center. We're going to talk to Pierre about a number of different topics concerning how to build and develop cybersecurity capabilities. All right, so let's dive into the Cyber Bite segment and explore some current events that are happening today in the cybersecurity industry. In current news, cybersecurity firm Flagship has reported a surge in attacks exploiting two critical zero-day vulnerabilities in Ivanti's corporate VPN appliance, impacting organizations globally. These vulnerabilities, identified as CVE 2023-46805 and CVE 2024-21887, have led to breaches in sectors including aerospace, banking, defense, and government. Over 1,700 Ivanti Connect Secure appliances have been compromised worldwide, with the number expected to be higher as per Shadow Server Foundation data. Despite the widespread exploitation, Ivanti has not yet released patches, but plans to do so in a staggering manner starting the week of January 22nd, 2024. Security experts anticipate the risk of ransomware attacks to increase if proof of concept code from these vulnerabilities becomes public. In other news, OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, has shifted its stance on military collaborations and is now working with the U.S. Department of Defense on various projects, including enhancing cybersecurity tools. The company OpenAI, which recently revised its policy to allow AI use in military contexts, is partaking in DARPA's AI Cyber Challenge to develop open source cybersecurity software by exploring ways to aid in prevention of veteran suicide. While OpenAI has lifted its blanket ban on military applications, it continues to prohibit the use of its technology for weapons development, destruction, or causing general harm. This collaboration is in line with Microsoft Corporation, which is an OpenAI major investor, which also holds contracts with the U.S. Armed Forces. Additionally, OpenAI is intensifying efforts on election security to prevent the misuse of its AI tools for spreading political disinformation. In other news, CISA has added a severe Microsoft SharePoint server vulnerability known as CVE 2023-29357 to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog due to active exploitation. This critical bug, an elevation of privilege issue with a high severity score of 9.8 in the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, allows attackers to exploit fake JSON web tokens for administrator access without requiring user interaction or administrative privilege. Researchers have demonstrated that this vulnerability, when combined with another exploit known as CVE 2023-24955, could lead to remote code execution. Following a proof of concept published on GitHub, security experts are urging organizations to patch both of these CVEs, especially with ransomware groups reportedly developing exploits. The U.S. federal civilian executive branch agencies now have a deadline of January 31st, 2024 to apply necessary patches to affected systems. Those are some of the headlines in the cybersecurity industry today. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll be with Mr. Pierre Colombel from the DoD Training Center and delve into what it takes to become a cybersecurity professional both today and tomorrow. Stay tuned. We'll see you back here in just a moment. Have you heard about the Open Security Control Assessment Language, also known as OSCL, that's been developed and managed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST? OSCL is a groundbreaking initiative designed to streamline the security assessment process for both public and private organizations by providing a standardized language for expressing security controls. OSCL enables the automation of security control documentation, assessment, and reporting, eliminating manual error-prone processes. With OSCL, security control information can be easily shared among stakeholders, fostering collaboration and ensuring compliance with various regulations. Use of OSCL can help to improve the efficiency of your organization, but also can contribute to a safer, more secure digital environment for everyone. More information about the Open Security Control Assessment Language and how to implement it in your organization can be found by scanning the QR code or at the official OSCL website. Welcome back to Cybersecurity Today. Our next guest, Mr. Pierre Colombel, is the owner and the Chief Executive Officer of the DoD Training Center, a premier institution dedicated to information technology and cybersecurity professional training and certifications. Pierre's career is marked by his role as a seasoned cybersecurity mentor and advisor with extensive experience in offering training and consulting services within government, corporate, and private sectors. His expertise in cybersecurity is further underscored by his certifications in CCSO, CISSP, ISSAP, ISSEP, CEH, CISM, and the list goes on and on. Today, Pierre joins us to provide his insights on the evolving cybersecurity landscape, emphasizing the critical role of education and certification in preparing professionals to navigate and address the challenges in this field. Pierre, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here, Jim. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely. I thought maybe what I'd ask is, if we do for most of our guests, just maybe spend a moment and talk a little bit about your background in cybersecurity and how you got to where you're at today.
Absolutely. I've spent the last 30 years as an educator, as a consultant for many government agencies like NASA, Department of Justice, Department of Defense agencies, providing training and both consulting services. Primarily, our focus today is more on consulting services, helping transitioning military transition to private sector jobs. So that's really where we've kind of narrowed our focus a little bit from when I started my career over 30 years ago.
Understood. I think with that background, I want to ask the next question, which is really trying to articulate or try to flesh out, like, what kind of challenges do you see today that are present in the cybersecurity landscape? Any thoughts in particular on that?
So right now, there are so many jobs for cybersecurity professionals. The issue that I see today is that people are missing one of three things, and really, especially in this DC metro area. I'm going to talk specifically about this area right now. and that is clearance, number one. Education, experience, and certification. And those are the factors that really determine how much value and opportunity a person has in this field today. And so what do I see as the challenges? I see people with a lot of experience, especially transitioning military. They have the clearances, but what they may be lacking is the 8140 certification, which qualifies you for some of those positions. We work with people in DoD and outside the DoD, but I'm going to focus on those within the DoD right now because that is our primary focus, not our only focus, but it is our primary. And so it's helping these individuals get the certification and potentially the hands-on training they need to be successful when they secure one of these positions. And I see it time and time again where somebody doesn't apply for a position because they're missing maybe 2 certifications. They think it's such a daunting task that it's going to take too much time, effort, and energy for them to actually get the certification to qualify for those positions.
So talk to me about the 8140. You mentioned that. That's
Right.
a DoD directive, and it's relatively new.
Yes.
Can you speak to a moment about really what its purpose is and how it applies to potentially viewers that might be watching the show?
So how it applies, it's a directive by the DoD that basically asserts that you must have certain cybersecurity certifications in order to have certain positions within the DoD. So how does that apply directly to the military? I get young kids recently joined the military. They get their clearance, they have a position, but they can't actually touch a government system until they get a baseline 8140 certification like Security Plus. Without that certification, legally, and from a compliance perspective from the military and the DoD, they shouldn't be on any system until they have that baseline cert. Really doesn't even matter what your educational background is. That is the barometer that's set with 8140 right now. And so that's really the bulk of our training is around 8140. That's probably about 75% of our training. The other 30%, 25% is about developing skills and assessing those skills to make sure people can actually do the job. And a lot of people think it's the same thing. Well, if I'm certified, that means I have the skills, I have the knowledge. And my answer to that is no. Certification means that you're able to pass a test to show a baseline level of competency that does not necessarily translate into actual abilities and things that you can do within the environment. And so I have to explain to people all the time, listen, getting the certification is one thing, the learning process is lifelong. This is something that you can't do in a week. And people often come in and think, okay, well, in a week I'm going to be an ethical hacker. No, you're not. It's going to take many years and months of dedicated learning and experience to actually develop those skills to become that sort of cybersecurity professional.
Understood. I think when you were talking about skill development, you may be referencing or thinking about, or I'm thinking about cyber ranges.
Yes.
And I'm curious if you could maybe spend a minute or two and talk about what a cyber range is and ultimately how you guys use it in that training program to cover that 25% that you discussed.
Absolutely. And so not only that, we try to integrate it into every class with the understanding that we have core objectives that we're trying to achieve. What are those objectives? Number one for most students coming to class is to pass the certification. For me as an educator and an adjunct professor at University of Maryland, Baltimore County for about 2 years, education and learning is what the reason I got into this field. So Cyber Ranges is a virtualized lab environment where we can do a multitude of things, such as assess a person's actual capabilities by putting them in an environment where they may see a phishing attack and how they would respond to that phishing attack. They may see a malware exploit propagating through the network. And we have a virtualized network where this malware is going to start propagating through the network. How are you going to respond to that? We can have, different teams, offensive and defensive, where you can try to defend your network and the other team can attack your network. And so we can do these sort of things and we can inject new, what's the word I'm looking for? New scenarios into any live event. So let's say we feel like something is too basic. We can make changes to the environment like what happened in the real world, and now you have to deal with those changes in the environment. And we can do a pre and post assessment after training, after going through a multitude of labs to both see where you are today versus where you should be and figuring out that gap and where we need to train you specifically so that you can better perform your job.
So that then begs the question, I think you're discussing kind of hands-on activities.
Absolutely.
How does that elevate the kind of the learning in terms of versus just studying a book and
Right.
being able to regurgitate a bunch of information?
The vast majority of these certification exams are primarily multiple choice questions, right? So it's, do you understand theoretically how some of this stuff works? There's a big difference between talking about and being able to identify cross-site scripting in a question versus if you actually see a line of code in your syslog or your SIEM system, how do you address that? So you see this code, so now what do you do next? How do you prevent that from occurring in the future? How do you go to the developers and what do you need to say to them so that you can better protect your code base against those sort of attacks? And making sure that we develop the skills in these individuals to be able to actually take that next step, not just identify that there's a problem, but more importantly, how do we solve that problem? And that's what the lab environment allows us to do, is to go in and experience these sort of things in real time. And now you have to take some sort of action. And it can be a guided action the first time where we show you specifically what you need to do. Now that's going to further your understanding, right? Because if I sit here and just tell you about something, and I tell it to 100 people, maybe you're going to retain 20% of that, 10% of that. That's on average, that's how much people retain from a conversation. But now that we can actually discuss it, do it, see it, interact with it, now we're really getting into true learning and a way to actually hone in on those skills and to develop the skills that you can apply to real world situations later.
Understood. So is it safe to then say that a lot of your courses integrate the best of both? In other words, the knowledge as well as the kind of the skill development through the hands-on?
Absolutely. And what it may mean is that priority one, get the certification. A lot of times we'll run a class and I'll have students certified by Wednesday or Thursday because that was the initial focus, get the certification. Now we can use this remaining time to go through labs. And we give students access to this lab environment for several months after the course ends to really go in and continue to develop those skills. Now you're certified, and now you can look and see what skills are relevant to your job. Those are the labs that you want to focus on because you can't learn everything, right? You take a typical certification, maybe there's 1,800 objectives. You really aren't going to learn 1,800 things in the course of a week, but there's 5 or 6 things that are very much applicable to your position. Now you can go in and focus on those 5 or 6 items that are going to be relevant to your job so that you know how to respond to those situations when it happens in your environment.
Understood. Can we speak for a moment or talk a little bit about some of the flagship courses that you guys tend to kind of focus on or see a lot of interest in?
Absolutely.
Maybe speak to what they are and ultimately who they're for and then how the hands-on piece fits into it maybe?
Okay, absolutely. So, some of the flagship courses that we offer, clearly anything on 8140, Security Plus, Network Plus, CASP, Pen Test Plus, courses like that. Certified Ethical Hacker.
And those are all CompTIA courses.
And those
correct?
are all CompTIA courses.
Okay.
Certified Ethical Hacker, Certified Forensics Investigator, through EC Council, ISC squared classes like CISSP, ISACA classes like CISM, CISA. These are classes that we teach all the time because of the demand behind 8140. And we try to integrate as much hands-on into all of those classes as possible while still giving students access to those resources after class.
Understood. Can we talk for a moment about potential success stories or maybe students that you've had that have come in, taken your courses, and then ultimately gone to have success in their career?
Absolutely. So,
and don't maybe say their full name. You don't want it for privacy purposes.
I won't say anyone's name, yeah. but I have several that I'll share. One, I have a nephew that came to me and his dad, my brother, at the beginning of his college career with the goal of getting a job. He wanted to make money. He was ready to make money. And so our advice to him was to get a certification, which he came and did with me, did Network Plus and Security Plus. He got a job as a Tier 1 help desk his freshman year of college, making somewhere around $40,000 a year, let's just call it. And over the course of the next 5.5 years, he did 5 other certifications, things like CISSP, PMP, and several others. By the time he graduated college, he was making over $145,000 a year. And you compare that to the average college student, okay, maybe they graduated a year sooner. But now what does he have? He has 6 years of real world experience. He has 6 industry standard certifications, And he's coming out of school making more money than a lot of these young people will see in the next 10 or 15 years of the career, maybe ever. And he did a degree in, I think, business administration. It wasn't even something technical, but developing those technical skills was a critical piece of that. We actually have a staffing component now because we see so many transitioning military. And so I have a number of good friends, colleagues that are program managers at companies like, Booz Allen, Leidos, GDIT. And so I've kind of leveraged them to help these transitioning military get positions outside of the military when it's time for them to make that transition. And so I'd say on average, we've seen a 50 to a doubling of income as they make that transition. And it's having a plan. It's knowing the sort of positions that you want to go after. It's getting the requisite certifications to meet those requirements, and then partnering that with the background in the military, the discipline that they have, the skills that they develop, the clearances that they already have, and now these certifications. It's an easy transition. And I see it time and time again. And so, this happens every day. And so, the toughest thing out of all those things I talked about earlier is probably getting the clearance, because you have to have somebody sponsor you. There's a time frame to get that clearance. So if you have the clearance, it's much easier to take an individual with the clearance with certifications, get them trained up pretty quickly, and now they can be billable on the job almost immediately versus having to wait 4 months, 6 months, 12 months for some clearance to come through when you really can't do the work you were hired to do. Understood.
Can we talk now a little bit about what you see in terms of like the evolution of cybersecurity education? What kind of, areas do you see it evolving into? You mentioned performance-based, hands-on. Yes. Any other areas you're kind of seeing coming down the pike?
Anything relating to cloud computing, architecture, administration, engineering is huge. Everything is moving to the cloud. And so having those skills, yes, is paramount to meeting the demands that are out there within the workplace right now. Clearly, everybody is seeing it now, all things AI. Trying to even understand and get a grasp on what AI even is, what the capabilities are, and what that really means for the future. I think anyone would be wise to focus some learning and understanding exactly how we can utilize AI to do a lot of the things that we do every day. And I think having that knowledge, having that skill will make you invaluable in most organizations as they try to navigate this, because most organizations have no idea. They know it's there, they know it's important, but how do we leverage AI within our environment to take full advantage of it? Because clearly those companies that figure that out first are going to have a huge strategic advantage over those that don't.
Are you seeing the courses evolving and incorporating artificial intelligence into those particular disciplines?
Absolutely. We have an internship program now, and one of the main things that we're focusing on for these interns is learning AI and learning how we can use it for marketing, how we can use it for content development, how we can use it for doing assessments, how we can use it in numerous ways. And we're still exploring that every day to try and really figure out, and even looking at developing courses around integration of AI within the workforce as well. So yes, definitely an area of opportunity for everyone right now.
Understood. Let's talk a little bit about guidance. You talked about, kind of 3 buckets: clearances, education, certification. Beyond those kind of big ticket items, what are some of the other critical skills that you would tell students that are really successful to develop or to possess within the cybersecurity fields?
So before I even talk specifically about cyber, I'm going to say communication, interpersonal skills. Those are a lot of times the big differentiator, right? You can be the most knowledgeable person in the world, but if you can't work in a team, if you can't get along with others, if you can't express an idea, then you may not be that valuable to an organization, and you may really limit your opportunities. So initially, I'm going to say those soft skills are critical. And then beyond that, the technical skills for the role that you're going after, and those are going to be different for everybody. So I'm not going to put a list of specific skills, but, a big one would be troubleshooting, right? Troubleshooting skills are paramount. The ability to solve a problem, the ability to figure out how to get an answer to something that you may not have knowledge on, right? You may have a client that comes to you with a problem, and as opposed to saying, oh yeah, we can fix that. No, you may have to take a step back and say, you know what, let me do a little bit of research. Let me come back to you and I'll have a solution for you. And then the ability to go and do that research, understand the problem, and then come up with the solution. Those sort of individuals are going to flourish in this environment right now. Those that can only do what they've been told, yeah, there's always a place for those individuals. But if you're talking about really elevating your career, it's having those sort of skills that I just mentioned and the ability to solve problems for your organization. That's how you make yourself valuable to an organization.
Understood. Are there any particular mechanisms you guys are incorporating into the training or into the kind of guidance you're giving to your students so that they can start to develop some of those skills?
So as far as a lot of the training, no. In the internship program and job prep programs, yes. And that situation, we have people work in teams where they have to interact with other people, where they have to, in order to complete a task, they're going to have to work with 2 or 3 other individuals. They're going to have to bide for time from that individual, knowing that everybody is busy in this program. And those that can best navigate that and influence others and get them to do the things that are necessary, clearly those are kind of our shining stars that we know will be very successful when they transition to jobs outside of the military.
Understood. How can viewers of the show learn more about the DoD Training Center?
They can go to our website. We have a website out there. You can look up my name on the internet, Pierre Colombel, and you can find all the information that you need.
And the URL for the DoD Training Center is?
DoDTC.com.
DoDTC.com. Pierre, thanks for coming in and sharing your information
Pleasure.
with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So guys and gals, that's going to conclude today's episode. We'd again like to extend our gratitude to our guest, Mr. Pierre Colombel, for joining us and sharing his insights on training and education in the cybersecurity industry, especially in the context of the DoD Training Center. We hope that you found today's show information engaging and that it provided new insights into the world of cybersecurity. To learn more about cybersecurity today and stay updated on future episodes, please visit our show's website at www.cybersecuritytoday.org. Also, you can use the QR code at the bottom of the screen to easily gain access to the show's website. Finally, you can reach out to us with any questions or comments at our email, which is contact@cybersecuritytoday.org. We look forward to seeing you at our next broadcast. Thanks a lot for joining us. Stay safe and stay informed.